Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, I-ON Digital Corp. IOND is filing an amendment to a current report, and I'm seeing a key detail about their equity plan that matters. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. This filing is really just a correction, but it still gives us a peek into how they are planning to reward their team. So, what is going on here is that I-ON Digital Corp had to file an update to a regular report they put out. Think of it like sending a corrected version of a document, because the first one had a small mistake or was missing something. The original report came out in June 2026, and this update or amendment is specifically to fix one part of it. The company says they accidentally filed the wrong version of their 2026 equity incentive plan. This means the official document describing their plan to give stock and options to employees and executives was incorrect in the first filing. So this new filing just replaces that one exhibit with the correct intended document. It is like sending out a corrected page for a book. They're very clear that this amendment does not change anything else in the original report. Now, even though this filing is a correction, it does point us to some important information about the company's plan for rewarding its people. This section is all about executive and officer compensation and arrangements. Back on the 8th of June, the board of directors approved the I-ON Digital Corp 2026 Equity Incentive Plan. This is a big deal for a smaller company because it is how they attract and keep talented employees, board members, and consultants. The goal is to motivate them by letting them share in the company's success, especially if the stock price goes up. The plan covers a lot of different ways to give out awards. These include things like stock options, which give people the right to buy company stock at a set price, and restricted stock units, which is essentially stock that gets given to them over time, or after certain goals are met. They've set aside a chunk of their Series E convertible preferred stock to be used for these awards. Imagine it as a pool of shares that the company can give out as bonuses or incentives. This part here is pretty important. They've reserved 100,000 shares of their Series E convertible preferred stock, and this reserve will automatically grow each year. Starting in 2027, it will increase by 4% of the total shares outstanding. This is a common way for companies to ensure they have enough shares for future grants. But it also means potential dilution for existing shareholders if not managed carefully. On the same day the plan was approved, they didn't waste any time. They granted stock options for over 66,000 shares of that Series E stock. These options were given to officers, employees, and even some outside service providers. The price to buy these shares is set at $145 per share. Now, this sounds like a lot, but it is based on the closing price of their common stock on the 5th of June, which was only $0.29 multiplied by a conversion rate of 500 to 1. This conversion rate is key here, effectively making the exercise price $0.29 based on their common stock. Let's look at who got what. Carlos X. Montoya, the CEO, received options for 18,000 Series E shares. These will vest, meaning become fully his, over 2 years, with the full amount vesting if there is a change in control of the company. He also got a performance-based option for another 2,000 shares. These will only vest if the company lists on NASDAQ, hits a $7.5 stock price, and completes a merger or a strategic partnership. Ken Park also got 9,000 shares in options with similar vesting terms over 2 years and 100% vesting on a change in control. He also got 2,000 performance-based shares tied to ambitious goals. These include becoming a market leader in gold-backed digital assets, reaching 100,000 monthly site visitors, securing $5 million in direct revenue from tokenization, building an investor community, and getting 10,000 accredited investor signups on their open finance platform. That's a lot of specific targets to hit. Brad Hoffman received 5,000 shares and options with the usual 2-year vesting and change in control trigger. He also has a performance option for 2,000 shares. This one is tied to developing and getting board approval for a private lending platform, which will be funded by bond activities. John Jubilee got 2,000 shares in options, again with standard vesting and change in control terms. His performance option for 2,000 shares comes with the requirement of completing a bank acquisition of at least $500 million, along with raising at least $7.5 million in equity. These are some pretty substantial financial milestones. Patrick White also received 2,000 shares in options, with the same vesting schedule. His performance option for another 2,000 shares is tied to a NASDAQ uplisting and hiring specific executive officers. On top of these named individuals, the company also granted options for another 20,750 Series E shares to a wider group of employees, consultants, and service providers. So in total, these grants cover a significant number of shares aimed at motivating the team. And finally, under the exhibit section, they relist the I-ON Digital Corp 2026 Equity Incentive Plan as Exhibit 10.1. This is the corrected version they are filing with this amendment. They also have a cover page interactive data file, which is standard for electronic filings. Now, looking at this filing, it is important to remember it is an amendment to fix a mistake. The core information about the equity plan and the grants made was likely in the original filing. However, this correction emphasizes the company's commitment to using equity as a tool to incentivize its leadership and employees. The performance-based awards are particularly interesting, as they are tied to some very specific and ambitious goals, including listing on NASDAQ, significant stock price appreciation, strategic partnerships, and substantial revenue and acquisition targets. For a company with a market cap around $7 million and only 4 employees, these performance targets are quite aggressive. For example, Ken Park's performance award requirements alone paint a picture of a company aiming for significant market penetration and revenue growth in the digital asset and gold tokenization space. The $5 million in direct revenues from tokenization, for instance, is a massive number relative to its current market cap. Similarly, John Jubilee's requirement to complete a bank acquisition of at least $500 million feels like a long shot for a company this size. This suggests that the current management team is setting very high expectations for themselves and the company's future. They are clearly signaling a desire for significant growth and development, and these awards are structured to reward success if it is achieved. It also means that the probability of these performance-based options actually vesting could be low, given the sheer scale of the targets compared to the company's current size. This is a classic case of a small company trying to punch above its weight, using ambitious plans and incentives to fuel that growth. The risk I am watching is whether these ambitious performance targets are realistic and achievable, or if they are more aspirational. If the company struggles to meet these, it could lead to frustration or a lack of reward for the team, potentially impacting morale and retention. My biggest concern is that while the incentive structure is strong, the underlying business fundamentals will need to catch up dramatically to justify the potential payouts to executives. Oh, and the research tools I actually use are linked in the description. They help keep this channel going. That is my take. Stay decoded. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more. Our Discord is in the description.